In this instance, what happened was the wife of Mr. Coconut Grove was the lawyer that wrote the sales contracts for this developer. So his wife is writing the contract. He's the lawyer. So of course, she's writing all this crazy stuff in there.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt. That is Shawn. Welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about real estate fraud, a couple interesting cases, one in Florida, one in California. We're also going to be talking about the top housing market in America, foreclosures, and in or out, whether Shawn is in or out on one property in the D.C. area. Shawn, first of all, Thursday, July 25th, how's it going? How is Shawn Battle doing?
Shawn Battle's doing pretty good. Put 2 new listings on this morning. As far as business-wise, 2 new listings on this morning. I think they're really great listings. They show really well up in Boston, and we got one under contract last night. So it was a good 24 hours for us.
Which one's under contract?
Liberty Center, 1-bedroom unit, 1407.
Okay.
Yep, and then we put another one on in Liberty Center. It's a 2-bedroom den, really well priced, $669,900. For a 2-bedroom den, it's 1,022 square feet, but it's a really nice looking property. We just repainted it. And then I put on 880 North Pollard Street, number 403, which is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It is 880 square feet, priced at $489,900. But the big argument would be, is this a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom den?
Always listed as a 2-bedroom.
Always. That's the hang up, and that's what I guess maybe the main thing that I wanted to tell people is like, there is no way for you to say a den in the MLS. And so when you have something that could be used as a bedroom, it has a window and all that jazz. And well, what
should a buyer know when they're walking into an 880 square foot 2-bedroom that the second bedroom is just probably going to be a den?
It's smaller. I mean, like if you look at the pictures, you can see that bedroom is smaller, and we have a full size bed in there. So it's tight, but you know what? It's $489,900. 3 blocks to Metro. You know?
So you staged it as a bedroom,
yeah.
The second bedroom as a bedroom.
Correct.
Do you think functionally someone's going to move in there and have that as a bedroom or an office?
I don't know.
It's probably going to be an office, right?
It most likely would be an office, but since I'm calling it a bedroom, I'm staging it as a bedroom.
You know,
we'll see.
I had this 3-bedroom on at Hyde Park in Boston, and someone called me, and we had labeled the 3rd bedroom like an office, right? Because we had staged it as an office. And they were like upset. They were like, where's the 3rd bedroom? Like, yeah, it's the room that has the door and the window, and that's 70 square feet. It's like, well, you labeled it as an office. I'm like, okay. It's a bedroom. He's like, no, it's not. It's an office. I'm like, what? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, what's the goal of this call? He's clearly not trying to buy the condo. It's clearly some sort of ego thing where he thinks he knows what a bedroom is when in reality he does not.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like, what is a bedroom? Every jurisdiction is different, and that's what was my Instagram video that I'm putting out. I said that, hey, you want to argue with me? Is this a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, or this is a 1-bedroom den? You tell me. Let's argue the point. I'm calling it a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And, you know, in Arlington, I don't know. I can't remember the exact specifics, but it has to be a certain square footage, has to have a window. I think that's it. Doesn't have to have a closet.
70 square, at least 70 square feet, at least.
Mine's 88.
At least 7 by 10. Yep. It has to have 2 egresses, right? So that means it has to have
a window and a door.
It can't be like you walk through one room to another room. Correct. It has to have an egress to the outside. There's, also additional notes on heating and cooling. Yep. So it has to have some sort of heating and cooling device. So like a sunroom, for example, can't be considered a bedroom. Mm-hmm. It has to have like electrical outlets. Mm-hmm. And then there's a couple additional, like the ceiling height has to be at least 7 feet tall. Correct. Like you can't have, some crazy slope to the ceiling. But yeah, no closets.
No closet.
No closet required, which most people don't get. Mm-hmm. All right, Shawn, let's get into the first topic. This is down in Florida. From the Miami Herald, we lost. Settlement in case against the king of Coconut Grove angers buyers of townhouses. Now, my knowledge of Miami is pretty much Miami, South Beach, Ocean Drive.
The places we've been.
Now, I've, stayed a weekend in Brickell, right? I've, kind of heard of Coral Gables, right? I've heard of, Coconut Grove, where this story takes place, as kind of the place to be. And once we start looking at these price points, it is certainly the place to be. And the article is, it would take me like the entire episode to actually go through the entire article. Here's the gist of it. Developer selling luxury primo townhouses in Coconut Grove. Apparently, he's the king of Coconut Grove. He has all these developments. He was selling them 2, 3, and in one instance, even 4 times over. So let's say Shawn's interested in a townhouse. Shawn puts down a $300,000, $400,000. In some of these instances, the buyers are putting down a deposit of $700,000. I mean, these are people's like dream homes that they've thought about. They interviewed one person from Chicago who's trying to get out of those Chicago winters to come down to Florida. He's like, yeah, this is going to be my dream home. So essentially, it's a Ponzi scheme. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening is when these buyers signed the deposits, the person running the Ponzi scheme, right, the developer, had some insane contract that heavily favored the developers. Now, all developer contracts are going to favor the developer, but this one took it a step too far. We're talking about where there was like no title company involved. So instead of giving your money to a third party that holds on to it, you're giving your money like directly to the developer. He said that in the contract, the developer could do essentially whatever he wanted with the deposit, as opposed to just being in a non-interest bearing account. And then additionally, let's see, we had the title company, and then there's one other facet of this that was just mind-boggling, to say the least. But Shawn, I'm trying to understand. This is happening in like 2018, 2019, and now we're at a point where 32 people are trying to recover upwards of $34 million that are owed from the developer. And of course, these home buyers, they're probably not going to get their deposit back. They're certainly not going to get these houses, which don't even have a certificate of occupancy, right? They have all sorts of building code, issues that are wrong with them. And the kicker here is that some of them are now up for sale. Okay, so there's real estate agents that are holding open houses for these houses, and buyers are walking in like saying, "I love the house, but is it going to have a clean title? Like, is someone from 5 years ago who bought the house, quote unquote, bought the house, going to come back and try to have a claim on this?" And so many people who had previously had a contract have signed quit claim deeds, relinquishing any liens on the property and surrendering their goals of ownership in hopes that they would recover some amounts. But most of this money that will be recovered from the sale of these properties is going to go to the construction lenders on the actual townhouses. So I know I was kind of all over the place, and certainly there's a lot of directions we could go there. But Shawn, what are your thoughts on this developer selling, the same house 3 and 4 times? And if there are home buyers out there who are interested in new construction, what sort of advice would you have to avoid something like this?
I mean, what a mess and what a scumbag. This is unfortunately the side of real estate that really sucks. And there are people out there that don't care about you. They have no conscience. They're just money-hungry thieves. And this is a good example of it. And I can't believe that, the thing that drives me crazy and is driving these buyers crazy that have lost their fortunes is that he's kind of skating around saying, you can't get me in jail. You're not going to get anything on me.
So there's no charges against him.
None.
The FBI, they're still trying to figure out if like a crime was committed. And, this developer, Doug Cox, can be seen driving in Coconut Grove in his Jeep Gladiator with custom rims, and he claims he's homeless.
Yeah.
So go figure.
Yeah. All right. So number one, this is new construction, and new construction is a different world from residential resales. And new construction, you have to be very wary of who you're dealing with. And in this instance, what happened was the wife of Mr. Coconut Grove was the lawyer that wrote the sales contracts for this developer. So his wife is writing the contract. He's the lawyer. So of course, she's writing all this crazy stuff in there that is saying, oh, the deposit can be used for whatever, whatever, whatever. And I'll tell you that, yes, new construction contracts are very, very highly sided to the builder, always. And, I have one under contract right now. We actually hired a lawyer to go through this contract. I went through the contract. It's a 45-page document. It's not short. There are so many items in there that you can look at and say, man, this is crazy. This is crazy. I mean, why, and in new construction, typically you're giving such a high, big deposit. That's just the way it is. And then once you go under contract, you go to choose the things you want in the house. And if those things end up costing more, you have to give another deposit to pay for those items. So the unfortunate thing here, and the thing that boggles my mind, is that he's able to sell these things over and over and over again, the same one to 4 different buyers. How does that even work? How is that even possible? And it's like
the closing dates keep getting pushed back. Oh, I just need this one other permit. I'm not going to respond to you for a couple months, things of that nature.
Exactly. And so when you dig down into this, and I guess my first piece of advice is do your research on that builder. Look at reviews. Look at anything that you can find on that person to see if they are reputable. There are really good builders around this area, and they have really seller-sided, builder-sided contracts. It doesn't matter who you deal with. They're all so seller-sided. But it's important that you know that these are reputable companies and that their reputation is, their future reputation is relying on what they do now for you. And if they don't deliver a home, then they're in trouble, And so I would be more wary of the one-off builders, those new builders just starting. They don't know the processes yet. They don't know how to, because listen, all of us start somewhere, right? All of us start at the beginning and we're like, all right, how do I do this? When I started real estate, I didn't know much, I had to, over 21 years, I learned. But there are a lot of people in there that don't realize what the actual costs are, how much it costs to build a house, how to get a C of O, how to get the permits. This guy was going in and not even going with what he submitted to the county. He was saying a 2-level townhouse, and then he built a 3-level townhouse. How do you even fathom that in your mind? How, as a person, can you do that? And that's the problem. It's the person. It's the person that started this. From the article, from what I can gather, he's a thief. He doesn't play by the rules, and he's trying to push things past people. And his wife wrote the contract where you have to give the deposit to them and they can use it however they want. But if people are going in this and they don't know how real estate typically runs, or maybe Florida law is different, maybe this is how they do it down here, you kind of start thinking it's probably okay. But in a lot of instances, it's not. And this is unfortunately one of those instances where these buyers unfortunately have lost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now they've signed quitclaim deeds saying that the liens are gone. Most of the money from this lawsuit, the lawyers are charging, $500 or $750 an hour to litigate this, to try to get this to mediate and get it to resolve the whole case. And who's going to be the loser is the buyers, and the winner is going to be the jerk that has done the Ponzi scheme, and the lenders. The lenders, this is another thing you have to understand, is like all of these builders are getting money from somewhere, and some of them have really reputable lenders. And then others have like these high interest rate, like one of the loans that is on one of these properties is at 24.5%. This is a couple $1 million loan. He was paying I don't even know, per day, $40,000 per day on the loan. So not only are there sharks in the building side, there are sharks on the lending side. Could you imagine loaning money and saying, I'm making $40,000 a day? That's ridiculous. But that's just what happens when people are in situations like this. They get taken advantage of. And so one takes advantage of the next, takes advantage of the next. And unfortunately, we have a bunch of sellers that are just pulling their hair out, or buyers that are pulling their hair out.
So one of those would-be buyers that was probably pulling his hair out said that everyone always says Miami is a dirty, dishonest, double-dealing place. Now I've experienced it firsthand. I love Miami. I'm not leaving, but holy crap, is the corruption unbelievable.
That sucks.
And, there's stereotypes, right, in real estate, like for a reason.
Yeah.
But then when you actually, go through it, and I think for a lot of home buyers out there, future home buyers out there, you're going to run into just a lot of just major corporations, right? Like national, like the Ryan Homes, like the NV Homes, like the insert, well-known home builder. And, you look up the reputation of like a Stanley Martin and things of that nature. And, some people will like it and other people will, say things about, the quality of the materials and, oh, this person didn't email me back. But it's not to the nature of like, oh, this company's running a Ponzi scheme, right? Like overall, you're probably going to run into, these national beasts. And then, if you do run into the one-off or the two-off, like this guy down in Coconut Grove was building like 12 townhouses, like an entire development almost on this one street. That's when you get the attorneys involved. That's when you say, hey, yeah, trust but verify. Like, okay, I'm going to trust this guy, but I'm definitely, going to have my attorney, take a look at this.
Yeah, so be careful when you're reviewing these contracts. I can read these contracts and get an idea, but I'm not a lawyer. And so in some instances, it's good to get a lawyer that knows these contracts in and out because they deal more with those and they see them a lot. And so if you've got a lawyer that'll charge you, a couple $100 here and there to review a 45-page contract, then it's worth it so you don't get yourself in one of these binds. But, the other thing I want to say about this is that there are fraudsters everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are in this business or any business. There's fraudsters everywhere. And I've been a victim of that in the past. I used to flip properties. And over the time, I was flipping small properties, small townhouses with an LLC that I had with a joint venture of 4 other people. And at one point, we did a deal in DC, and we trusted someone. It was a friend of somebody else, and we trusted this person to kind of go in on a deal with us. And it turns out, long story short, that we weren't watching them closely, and I was the real estate agent. There were other people doing different facets of the business. And we had a construction loan, and that construction loan would then be paid to our partner's account, and he would then do the work. Like he was basically the general contractor. But what he was doing, and his name's Anthony, if he's watching, I hope he's watching, jerk. What he was doing is he was taking the construction money, and he was doing some work there so that we would go over and be like, okay, there's been stuff. But then he had side projects. And he was funneling that money over to his side projects and funding those without our knowledge. And then he's like, oh, I need more money. Okay, we'd send him more construction loan. We'd have proof, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, he ended up using all that money. And here's another thing. As we went down that road, we found this stuff out. He was gone, like gone. He defrauded his in-laws on different transactions. And so then what happened is then we had to get lawyers involved. And the lawyers, basically, we had a loan. We had a loan of over $1 million, $1.something million. And we had to pay this back. And every month, there's accruing interest and accruing interest. And it's with a reputable local bank here. And so then we hired lawyers to help us get out of this deal, help us get out of this problem that we're in, because now we don't have a finished product because our guy that was doing it left. We don't have C of Os. We're almost done. We're almost there, but like we're kind of stuck because we don't have any money left because the guy took it all. So what do you do? So then we hired lawyers to kind of help us to deal with the bank and kind of friendly foreclose on this deal. And, our lawyers were like, just sign the deal. Just sign. And I'm like, hold on a second. Like, I'm not just signing anything, right? Like, I need to know what I'm talking about. So in the end, what I ended up doing was firing the lawyer. Like we were like paying this lawyer all this money, and all he wanted us to do was sign what the bank was giving us. I'm like, no. And so I then took over and I started talking to the bank and talking to the bank and talking to the bank and becoming friends and saying, listen, how do I do this? Like, come on, we don't want to, whatever. But in the long run, I had to negotiate this, and we negotiated certain items and we got out of it, and we had to come up with money. We had to come out of the deal, unfortunately, not unscathed. Couple hundred, like $150,000 a piece, but we got out of it, and that taught me such a big lesson that be careful on who you deal with, what you're dealing with, know who you're dealing with, know what you're doing, and just be careful. And it made me so much more conservative with my money and who I'm partnering with, and it was a big lesson. It was a good lesson for me because it's made me who I am today, I guess. So I'm thankful for that in some ways, but it was a hard lesson, man, at a time that I didn't have $150,000.
What do you think Anthony's up to these days?
I don't even know, man. He's defrauding somebody in some other way of life, unfortunately. It's just the way that they are. These scammers are always scammers, and it doesn't matter. They're going to scam you in some way or the other, and that's how they get through life. And unfortunately, they're out there. So be careful.
So we are just barely scratching the surface of this Miami article. We'll move on. There's, they go into some of the buyers. There's this one buyer, they say, Chris Pasillo, a former South Beach nightclub impresario, was persuaded by the developer to sign 5 contracts and hand over $2.3 million. So he's buying 5 townhouses, and Pasillo, aka Christian Ludwigson, is a gym owner, real estate investor today, but a celebrity who partied with Madonna and Jennifer Lopez in the 1990s. And I'm like, who is this person? And apparently he's a former FBI informant on his New York City mafia contacts, pleaded guilty to racketeering in 2000, served 6 years in prison, was accused of murder at one point.
This is one of the buyers.
So this is one of the buyers. So there's like, I highly encourage you. I'll list and link the article below because I want to make sure I'm doing this article justice because, it's props
insane
to the Miami Herald because this is a fascinating article that I would highly encourage everyone read.
It really is.
So, Shawn, let's move on to our next fraud article. And you had mentioned, calling the bank, talking to the bank. This one's interesting. It's from CNBC. Silicon Valley executive had $400,000 stolen by cybercriminals while buying a home. Here's her warning. So Raina Robillard was tricked into sending her life savings to a criminal. So this may sound a little similar to other, wire fraud cases out there. Robillard received an email in late January from her mortgage broker with directions to wire $398,000 as a down payment to JP Morgan Chase, to a JP Morgan Chase account, which she wasted no time in sending the money. After all, the email appeared to be a response to one of Robillard's had sent her broker asking about the final steps before closing, which was rapidly approaching. Yada, yada, yada. She got the duplicate request for the down payment from the lender a couple, like the next day or something like that. And then it all hit her that she had been duped and sent the money to some random account. And this is someone who has spent 25 years as a veteran of tech companies and, knows a lot about cybercrime, cybersecurity. And it just goes to show that, it could happen to anyone. And basically what ended up happening was she immediately contacted the bank. The FBI got involved.
Wow.
And eventually the funds were located and were frozen. And this is, this takes months. Like this doesn't just happen overnight. And she eventually looks like got some of her $400,000 back, possibly a fair amount. Let's see. Citibank sent her $250,000. She received another $150,000 from Chase. So she may have been made whole, but she envisioned spending her life with her daughter in this house that's been relisted by Open Door. She's out the money. Maybe she got the money back. She's out the house, and now she's trying to tell others about the fraud, because real estate fraud in the United States has gone up. In 2022, it was close to $450 million. Compared to 2018, it was just over like $200 million. So It's essentially doubled in the past 5 years. Shawn, what are your thoughts on the old wire fraud for closing on a house?
Man, and that's the thing is you never know. It doesn't matter who you are. Buying a house, people don't do it often. And so they don't know the processes a lot of times. And if you look at a lot of real estate agents and a lot of title companies' signatures, it says wire fraud, beware of wire fraud. You'll see it on a ton of different emails from people. And what that says is, listen, do not trust anything you're getting in email because these fraudsters are so good at duping you. I get emails from like, what are those pay sites, Venmo or whatever, or PayPal. They're looking like real, legit stuff. And I'm like, wait a second, I didn't buy anything. And I'm like, hold off. This is probably fraud. It's probably fake. They want you to click a button. They want you to click in there. So anybody can be duped. It doesn't matter who you are, especially when you're buying real estate. You have to be very careful on when you're sending money. Now, our title companies will still send, hey, here's our wire instructions. But before you send any money, you're calling that bank and you're calling that title company and making sure, not from the thing that you got on there, from a separate document that says where their information is, you call them and say, hey, is this the correct wire instruction? I'm sending a deposit now. and then call them and say, can you verify that you got it, right? So you have to be smart about this when you're sending huge sums of money like this. It's not as scary as when you're receiving it, because it's the title company that's then sending it and they have insurance for this kind of thing. But when you are sending your life savings out to somebody, make sure that you are sending it to the right account. It's a scary thing. I've done it and I'm like, wait, is this right? Triple check, and then it's gone. And you're like, oh God, I hope it made it, So be careful. Anybody can be duped. And I've seen it happen. And once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah,
right?
and this isn't, a story about some boomer that, was sent, by an AOL like email address and they just, made a mistake. Oh no, like this looked real. There were a chain of more than 20 emails from the buyer and the mortgage processor, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then the buyer asked, hey, what's the next step? And then the fraudster jumped in to the actual email account of the lender and said, yeah, the next step, probably typing or speaking, if you will, in that lender's tone or voice. Yeah, the next step is to wire the money to this account. So there's no reason that you would think that something nefarious was going on. Now, Robillard said that she sees ample room for improvement in all the parties involved. She claims that, first of all, she acknowledges that she should have been more cautious before initiating the wire transfer. I think she understands that, hey, I probably should have done some things different. But she also sees room for improvement. She says her real estate agent should have explained that wire directions would be coming directly from the title company. The banks should have verified that the receiving account was that of a genuine title company and not a fraudster. And her mortgage broker should have used a secure portal for document sharing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, these secure portals, we have the secure portals, and they're a pain in the butt, man.
It's just another thing to sign up for.
Oh my God. It's like every title company has a different thing.
But what's the alternative? The alternative is fraud?
I mean,
why do we have the secure portals?
Yeah. And, I don't think every single email has to go through the portal, but I guess it is secure. I mean, but the main thing is, verify before you send. Verify.
With a phone call.
Phone call. Yeah.
Phone call.
Be there. My clients go in person to a bank and they'll have the printout and they'll be calling. I make sure that this happens every time. But the alternative is bring a cashier's check, and you know what happens? Some people lose their cashier's check and it's just like cash. And that's happened before. It's gone, dude. What do you want me to do? So just be careful. Verify. Yeah, the portals can be good. Yes. I mean, there are ways that you can deposits through an app and that we use with certain title companies that work really well. So I think the technology is getting better and better for this. And I do agree that there should be an easier, simpler, more secure way to do it.
She got the money back. Also, CNBC was contacting the banks in early July. Keep in mind, the purchase happened in June, or the would-be purchase. Robillard received $150,000 wire from Chase. JP Morgan had a spokesperson with a comment. Not every buyer that gets frauded is going to have CNBC writing an article. Yeah. Not every article is going to have CNBC contacting banks on your behalf. So most of the times, this money is just gone. So, word to the wise, make the phone call. When I bought a house, I made the phone call, and the title call, I feel like I was a burden. The title company, yes, I just sent you that email. But I guess that's the response that you want. It's okay, it's a real person. They just sent me the email file.
I felt the same way when I was doing it. I'm like, are you sure? I was going crazy, and I'm like, I do this every day, but I don't buy a place every day. So naturally I want to be secure. So annoy people when it comes down to it. Annoy them, because this is your money.
It's worth it. All right, let's move on to our next article. This comes to us from Realtor.com. America's top housing market is in the Heartland, with homes below $200,000 in hot demand. Home buyers looking for a top housing market can ignore the West Coast sunny appeal and the East Coast seasonal charms. Shawn, instead, home buyers should concentrate on the country's heartland, in particular, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Okay, so the mid-sized city is in the hub of Northeast Indiana and ranked number 1 in the Wall Street Journal, Realtor.com, housing markets ranking. Known as the Summer City, Fort Wayne is 18 miles west of Ohio, 50 miles south of Michigan, and within a 300-mile radius of popular metropolitan centers such as Chicago, Cincinnati, Detroit, and Milwaukee. 300 miles sounds like a large radius. So the real estate market is relatively balanced, but leaning towards a seller's market. Homes priced under $200,000 are in high demand and sell quickly. So, Shawn, the median list price for Fort Wayne, Indiana, $335,000. Other metro areas that came in the top 10: Canton, Ohio, home to which Pro Bowl, which Hall of Fame?
What do you mean?
The NFL Hall of Fame. Akron, Ohio, Manchester, New Hampshire, South Bend, Michigan, Burlington, Vermont, Kingsport, Tennessee, Rockford, Illinois, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Appleton, Wisconsin. Shawn, thoughts on the top 10 list, and when are we buying a rental property in these cities?
Yeah, I know. That's the thing, is like, if you can, and it said the properties under $200,000 are the hot properties that are popping off, because, man, can you imagine buying a house for 200 grand or less? That's an amazing opportunity. But the other thing, when you're buying, naturally, you got to look, all right, what are rentals going for? Because you're renting that place out.
Probably pretty low.
Probably pretty low. So there's a reason they're $200,000. And so you got to be careful on that. But it's
these lists are always like, city that you don't want to live in has the top housing market for affordability.
Yeah, it's like my hometown of Pittsburgh. It's like, do I really want to move back there?
Well, hold
No,
on. Pittsburgh's been blowing up recently.
It has been.
Pittsburgh's on the up and up.
Oh, yeah.
I
It's a
think,
great town.
Liverpool is playing a match there today.
Oh, yeah? I didn't know.
Do you know what that means?
No. Oh, a match? Yeah, soccer? Yeah, of course.
Okay. Because they were showing Liverpool, the players like walking around downtown, and you
Really?
see like people in the background.
Yeah.
Couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Couldn't care less that
Had no
Mo
clue.
Salah is
You
just
know why?
walking around Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh doesn't even know what soccer is, man. We didn't grow up on soccer. No, I'm just joking. It's changed a lot, and Pittsburgh has changed a lot. It's a beautiful city. I always talk it up because I love it. I grew up.
I was trying to watch something on the app, and I don't know what networks we have, and do we have ESPN? Do we have ESPN Plus? And I think I was trying to watch a Euro game or a Copa America soccer match. I was in like a soccer mood, right? Messi's playing and Ronaldo's playing, and insert random players are playing, but we didn't have the channel. But there was soccer on, and so I clicked on like ESPN the Ocho basically, and I see a Pittsburgh team playing. I was watching the Pittsburgh Riverhounds SC, and they have this gorgeous stadium like right along the water. Like even when they're showing the field, like you can see the water in the background in the downtown buildings. I think it was on maybe the southern strip, like the southern side, and then there's Point State Park. Whatever. I was like, I might become a Riverhounds fan.
I'm telling you,
cool.
Go to Pittsburgh and go see a game, whether it's the Pirates, Steelers, whatever.
Riverhounds.
The Riverhounds. I've never been to a Riverhounds game, but the Pirates Stadium is the same way, man. When you're watching a game, you see the buildings behind in the outfield. It's gorgeous. It's a really pretty city. It used to get a bad rap because of steel industry and in the smog and everything, but I grew up with smog and I love the smell of smog, but I mean, it's a good town. Could I go back? I don't think I could. I mean, maybe, but one thing I'll tell you about Pittsburgh is the weather. And that's what I worry about here. I don't know the weather in these Midwestern cities. Our weather in Pittsburgh was very dreary. It was always cloudy, overcast, and partly because of the industry. But that was early in my life. But two, it's like, you get all that Lake Erie effect, snow, which is north of us, but then the clouds. I don't know how we get the clouds, but there was rarely sun. And that sun, when you don't get sun, you get depressed,
right.
And so when I came down here, it was like, it was sunny all the time. And, you think it's going to be warm outside and it's freezing cold, but it's sunny, That's the difference. So,
Shawn, there was one Virginia city that made the summer 2024 housing market rankings. Do you want to take a guess at what city in Virginia, in Southwest Virginia?
Roanoke.
Roanoke came in on the list at number 16 with a median list price of $380,000. Now, I think Roanoke is still, a little bit of a distance from Danville, but the new nickname for Danville, Virginia, Dan Vegas. Because they just got a casino down there.
Right.
So
See?
Danville's
they
now
moved
Dan Vegas.
from Northern Virginia and they went to Southwest Virginia to get their casino. Roanoke, what's the lake down there? I can't think of it right now.
Smith Mountain?
Smith Mountain Lake. Yeah, I mean, I've never been, but gorgeous from the pictures that I've seen. The mountains behind, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, so lots of Ohio, lots of Illinois, lots of Indiana, kind of that area of the country is just
it's the Rust Belt, right? It's the Rust Belt of America that we lost a lot of jobs, and values dropped, and the older population is dying out. So the properties become available. They're cheap, and they're trying to spur new activity, new life to these cities. They're great cities. So I wish them good luck. I'm probably not going to move there. I'm moving to coastal cities. I'm staying here in Arlington or going closer to the coast.
I like to be able to drive to a rental property. There's something about that.
Yeah.
And bigger pockets fans, the maybe hardcore investors that are just, hey, find me the deal in Vermont, find me the deal in Wisconsin. I don't care. That's great. But there's something about it where I think maybe it's my risk tolerance.
Yeah.
I want to be able to drive to it.
There's always going to have something coming up. And like they say, passive income is not really passive. You've got to work for that stuff. And there's always going to be something coming up that is wrong with the property, and you've got to take care of. So either the people in that location that can do it for you, and you got to make those connections quickly, or you got to go do it yourself, and figure it out. So
I think someone described like passive income or a rental property as an expensive puppy, right? It's just it's always costing you money. You're always thinking about it. You're always kind of worried about it.
Yeah.
And then you have these like hopes and dreams that it becomes like something larger than life.
Yeah.
All right, Shawn, let's move on to our next topic. Let's move on to in or out, whether you are in or out on a property. And we're going to go to the Gold Coast of McLean. Shawn, let me introduce you to 1159 Crest Ln for $15,900,000, 4 beds, 5 baths, 5,000 square feet, overlooking the Potomac River. Experience riverfront living at its finest with this exceptional estate opportunity, boasting a prime location on one of Washington's most prestigious streets and offering breathtaking views of the Potomac River. Encompassing nearly 2.5 acres, this unique estate is introduced by a gently winding drive leading to an existing nearly 6,000 square foot residence. The estate presents an unparalleled opportunity to customize or build a new riverfront estate. Okay, so from that wording and from the photos that showcase more of the views, this almost strikes me as the values in the land. So maybe you would live in this house, and it looks like a magnificent house from the outside. Not too many interior photos. So now we're thinking, okay, maybe it's for the land, which they're not making many riverside houses in McLean overlooking DC and the Potomac River, Shawn. So for just a hair under $16 million, are you in or out on 1159 Crest Ln?
2 acres of land on the Potomac, overlooking the Potomac. Beautiful property. And the views from the actual existing house is really pretty. Like that shot right there of that circular area. And I thought it was going to be for this house, but Matt, it's too rich for me for the land, man. $16 million for 2 acres in McLean. And you're not subdividing this. You're building a bigger house that's going to be more extravagant, that's going to cost you millions. And the thing is, I've dealt with contractors, man. I've dealt with builders. I'm done dealing with contractors and builders right now. It's because what happens is delays, and then it's so much work dealing with contractors. Contractors are like a breed of themselves. And if you guys have dealt with them yourselves, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, hey, I'm going to be there Monday. Are they there Monday? That's the tough thing. They're a different breed. Unless you pay top dollar for these people, and then you're paying through the nose, right? They're going to be on time, but man, they're expensive. So long story short, I am going to unfortunately pass on this one because I just don't want to build another house. I want it built for me, and I just want to move right in. So I'm not waiting to tear this thing down. I'm not going through a permitting process. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'll give it to you.
If I told you that Queen Noor used to rent this house,
oh my gosh, Queen Noor.
would that change your mind?
Isn't it so funny? Like they mentioned
does that do anything
who
for
the
you?
hell is Queen Noor?
Okay. So Shawn, Queen Noor is the fourth wife and widow of King Hussein of Jordan. She was the Queen of Jordan from their marriage from 1978 until Hussein's death on February 7th, 1999. So the former Queen of Jordan,
That's pretty cool.
has lived in this house.
But
Again,
we're gonna
Don't know if it does anything for you.
No, we're going to tear it down.
We're going to
anyways.
tear it down.
So I'm assuming that's what you're doing, unless you're going to renovate that thing. But
I think what you do is you tear it down, then you build a $30 million property.
yeah,
right?
and that's probably what's
at
going to
some
happen.
point, these houses, and by the way, there's already been a house in Arlington along the Gold Coast on Chainbridge Road. This one's just off of Chainbridge Road, but on Chainbridge Road, it sold for $45 million.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple years ago, like 2021, 2020, sold for $45 million. So, if you can get $45 million for a house in this, maybe that house is larger, bigger, whatever. I'm thinking you buy this one, you tear it to shreds. Sorry, Queen Nor. You're probably lovely, but your name doesn't carry a lot of weight, in this capacity. And then you just build the most palatial estate that you can, because being on the Gold Coast in this part of McLean, to me, it really doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
Location-wise. Now, you're having the issue with Blinken, right? Blinken lives up here.
Yeah.
A lot of people protesting, a lot of chaos happening there. Hopefully that, subsides at some point, But if you want this location, there's a finite of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And to have 2 acres, I don't think I'm in for $16 million to buy dirt, but I'm not too far out either, if that makes sense.
Well, the thing is that you have to think about is like $16 million. If you had $16 million, great. But then you're going to build a house that's millions of dollars. Think of the carrying costs that go on involved in this. Like the first story we just talked about. Like these builders that think that they can do it, and then all of a sudden they're stuck and they're holding a big bag of money that's not theirs, and they're paying interest on it, So that's what scares me the most. That's why I'm just like, developing that kind of thing with those deep pockets, it's not my pocket. So.
If you had easier fishing access,
That's the one thing
than
actually.
the cliff.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, listen, if I was right on the water there and I could easily get down there, that'd be a whole different story. But, you're up on a cliff and you're not going to be going down to use that river. And I like water and I'm going to be using it as much as possible. So this property is just not for me.
So the description says experience riverfront living at its finest.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like cliff front. It's not. You probably can access the river, but you're doing a lot of hiking and it's an arduous task.
People that are buying this for $16 million and building a big house ain't walking down the river.
They're not touching the river. They're not touching the river. All right. Well, let us know if you're in or out in the comments section below. And for Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.